Well, I'm Matthew Bajko. I'm the assistant editor and political columnist for the Bay Area Reporter. We have about 30 minutes for questions. If you have any questions, please submit them through the live stream chat. If we don't get to your question tonight, they will be posted and answered on EQCA's blog at http://ca-ripple-effect.blogspot.com. So how about we start off with a first question for Geoff about all the back and forth and gossip about who may be the next speaker of the assembly here in California and what the chances are looking like as of tonight for John Perez becoming the first openly gay man to hold that position.
Sure. Macaulay, California is strongly supporting Assemblymember Perez in his bid to be Speaker. And in fact, today we sent out an action alert. And if you haven't already done so, please go to EQCA.org and take action, because we're asking all of our members to let their assembly member know how important it is that Assemblymember Perez becomes the next Speaker. This would be incredibly historic. He'd be the first openly gay person to hold this post. And in a time when we are facing such unprecedented challenges for our community, especially in HIV/AIDS funding, having an openly gay speaker, especially someone like Assemblymember Perez, who has been such a leader in fighting for HIV/AIDS funding, is going to be really critical. Now, in the past, most speakers' races don't turn into sort of the public fight that we're seeing right now. Typically, when one member in the majority party has a majority of their colleagues on board with them becoming the next speaker, it's a done deal and everyone in the party joins in and they have the majority necessary to win. That's not done yet in this case. There's still a battle going on, and that's always troubling to us when it seems the rules don't apply when there's an openly LGBT person involved. You know, we've seen it in some places around the country, and we hope that's not what's happening here. But we know the right wing is going to fight this, and it's really important people get involved. But we do believe that Assemblymember Perez will be the next speaker. But I think it's going to take all of us really stepping in and letting our members know how important this is to the community and that it's a really high priority. You know, having openly LGBT electeds has made a huge difference. And if you look at the bills that were passed this year, one by Assemblymember Perez, two by Senator Leno, as well as, you know, one of the bills that was vetoed, but it was carried by Assemblymember Amiano, as well as some resolutions by Senator Chris Kehoe. The LGBT caucus has really done a great job of leading the effort in Sacramento. And to have, you know, one of them elevated to speaker, I think will be tremendous for our community.
Well, since this normally isn't such a public process, do you know when a vote is expected to be scheduled on who would become speaker, or explain a little bit more of why it's important for people to contact assembly members, maybe who are Republican?
Sure. So the way the process is work, it's tentatively scheduled for a vote this Thursday, December 10th. And it takes 41 members, a majority of the assembly, to vote for a speaker. And there are 48 Democrats, so if all the Democrats coalesce around one candidate, then we're done. And it's important that any of the Democratic assembly members who are not on board with the majority of the Democrats know that our community really cares about this and is very much behind John Perez in his bid. But it's also important to let Republicans know that, one, they have LGBT people and LGBT supporters in their district, and urging them to support the person who has the most votes and really standing up for this. We have seen Republicans vote on some LGBT bills this year, both in the Assembly and the Senate. So it's important that everyone, you know, let their legislator know that this is a real high priority.
Okay, so moving on to a different topic. In January, we should see the start of the federal lawsuit against Proposition 8 filed here in the federal court in San Francisco. One person would like to know how this lawsuit may impact going back to the ballot in 2012 to repeal Prop 8, and specifically, do you think that we'll have a decision by the U.S. Supreme Court prior to that vote in November of 2012?
Well, first, the trial's expected to start in January. Equality California filed an amicus brief early on in support of that, and we very strongly support this case. It's expected that there'll be the district court ruling sometime in the spring, and everyone's cautiously optimistic that we're going to get a favorable ruling. At that point, we expect the other side to appeal to the Ninth Circuit, and that likely would be probably sometime in 2011 is what's expected. It could be sooner, it could be later. It's up the courts get to work on their own timeline. If we are successful there, if Olson and Boys and their team are successful, there's the possibility that it could go up to the Supreme Court. But there's also the possibility there's no one who could ask it to go up to the Supreme Court if we keep a governor and attorney general who support overturning Prop 8. Right now, both Governor Schwarzenegger and Attorney General Brown are not defending the case, and they're saying that Prop 8 does violate the Constitution. So as long as we continue to have people in those offices, there's a good chance it won't go to the Supreme Court. If it does, that could be 2012 or later. But if we win in the trial court and appellate court and it doesn't go to the Supreme Court, there would be no need to go back to the ballot. If the Supreme Court then hears it, it could go either way. So, we can't assume that's how we're going to win marriage in California. We have to do the hard work to be ready. And as public opinion continues to change, I think we're more likely to see a good ruling from the court. So I think all that work's critical. But, of course, the best way to win this victory would be if the court does what the court should do and what the California Supreme Court should have done and strike Prop 8 as unconstitutional.
Okay, well, let's delve into some questions regarding the repeal process for Prop 8. Recently, the Courage campaign came out and said that their own research mirrored what Equality California found this summer, that there really didn't seem like there was a lot of reason to go back to the ballot in 2010, and that the better strategy is to use the next 2 years to educate voters for 2012. So one person would like to know, has that decision by the Courage campaign changed the working relationship dynamics between Equality California and Courage now that you're kind of on the same timeline, whereas before you were kind of working at different times?
Well, no, it doesn't change much in terms of how we're going to move forward. Certainly, I know that there are a number of folks that have been also have asked me on the street and at events and so on how this will impact what we do. Well, certainly, we're looking to work with any organization that's going to do the work to make sure that we win marriage back in California. And we've been working with Courage Campaign. I think that we want to be really clear. We've been working with Courage Campaign, doing canvassing work and other field organization work. So it's not as if suddenly we're going to start working together. We actually have been working together. And so as we move forward, we are actually, looking to have further discussion about how to make sure that California wins the right to same-sex marriage back as soon as possible, and certainly 2012.
Well, I think I'm sure you've heard the same concerns from people moving forward that we in the gay media definitely keep getting asked a lot about, and that's looking at the criticisms against the Prop 8, the No on Prop 8 campaign structure, and how there really didn't seem to be one person in charge of making the final decision on things. How have you decided on what type of structure we may see going forward? Are those conversations already taking place? What should people maybe be thinking of as we start really moving into 2012 and focusing on that?
So I think two things. First, in the No on 8 campaign, there was a campaign director and a lead consultant who made the decisions. There was an executive committee and campaign committee that raised money and did field work and outreach to our list, which is the role Equality California played. But there was a campaign director and a lead consultant who actually had the authority and made the decisions. I think you do need that one person who is making the decisions in running the campaign. But I think it's also critical that we have the largest possible coalition of organizations who are all partnering and doing the work on the ground and not waiting until we have an election in 2012. We need to be doing the work now. You know, one of the things we saw in California, we saw it in Maine, we've seen it around the country, is people don't really move on the core issue of marriage equality in the last month or two of a campaign when both sides are running ads and trying to target a small percentage of people. Really, when people have moved historically on this issue is outside of campaigns. It's in the time period before. We saw a huge movement after the backlash in 2004. We saw a huge movement in 2005 on the issue of marriage equality here in California as the bill we did with Mark Leno moved forward, and as people got used to the fact that there were couples who got married in San Francisco and were getting married in Massachusetts. That's the work we all need to focus on now. And Let California Ring is, the way they call it, California Institute, is working with so many other organizations. And, you know, just to follow up on what Andrea said, you know, we've been sending people to Camp Courage's. They are sending people to our field canvases. There's really great partnerships happening with so many organizations on the ground. Vote for Equality in LA has been a huge part of this. The ACLU has been a huge part of this. And that's how we do it, because we need to go into election having already moved people and having widespread majority support in California, because then when the other side starts their lies and scare tactics, we've already done the work to have people understand them ahead of time. And that's something I think we're all committed to doing right now.